everybody, and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is Flynn. We would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are streaming and creating today. We would also like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. We are live. If you've got any questions as we're going along today, we're here for about an hour. We've got Kit joining us in just a second. We're using Behance live chat. I can see Alessandra in there and Johanna. Hello. Throw in some questions as we're going along today. It's great to hear from you. And we'll also keep an eye on YouTube. Without further ado, let's bring on Kit. Hello, Kitiya Palaskas. How are you?
Hi, Flynn. I am good. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. I think doing streams on a Friday is really fun. Like, I have so much more energy on a Friday. I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's get crafty. Let's hang out with Kit. Let's have some fun.
Bit of a party atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly.
As party as you can get
As
in one of these.
as you can get. Yeah, exactly. At 12 o'clock midday.
Yeah. I'm really excited to be here again. If you caught last week's stream, you will know that we were doing a deep dive and an experimentation and exploration into everything to do with the new Adobe Express desktop app.
Yeah.
So I thought I might start. If you missed last week's session, obviously you can catch the replay on Behance or the YouTube. But I thought I might just start with a quick little recap of what we talked about for anyone that is fresh to this little mini series or joining us from last week. So
perfect. Let's do that. Let's share your screen. So yeah, there's been all these updates, right? There's new. It's almost like a brand new Adobe Express with all of the features.
It's really exciting because the desktop app has been completely refreshed with all these new exciting features and tools. You may have used Adobe Express in the past, but if you're new to it, quick spiel about it. It is an all-in-one design platform for anyone really, creative professionals, small business owners, or just design enthusiasts that can help you create really beautiful design assets, but also there are lots of tools and features to help you as a creative professional to streamline your marketing workflows and your design workflows as well. So it basically pulls together all the most used or most useful aspects of your other favorite Adobe programs like Premiere, Photoshop, and Illustrator, and After Effects, and Firefly, and puts them all into a really easy to use, simple, design platform.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
It's in the browser as well, which is always so good. So you can kind of just use it anywhere.
Yeah, it's always updating. It's always in the browser. Quick little just recap of what we can find when we jump into the new Adobe Express. We can find a whole bunch of, quick actions or tools to get you started. So, if you come on and you don't know what you need to do, maybe you need to create something for social media, maybe you want to create a reel for your Instagram. So there's a video editing area, maybe upload some photos and edit them, create a document like a PDF or a presentation, do some marketing using the content scheduler, or use some of the fun new generative AI tools, which we talked about last time. And we're kind of going to dive into just a little bit more in a sec. There's also, here are some of those AI features. It's so exciting. Every time I come on here, there's new stuff that they have created.
Different
and I'm
examples.
A blueberry one. That's cool. And there's a cardboard one, which is really fitting for me because I'm a cardboard artist. Then, a bunch of quick actions, bunch of templates that you can choose from. I really love this because we were saying in the last session, I don't consider myself to be a graphic designer at all. It's always been a bit of a sore spot for me. I realize that I don't have formal graphic design education, and so there's some things I just don't understand and I just don't know about things like layout, type, etc. But I love that you can just use these templates and you can make these really beautiful designs that have been actually created by Adobe Express team of designers and still just look like you know what you're doing when really you might be a noob at graphic design like me. So I love that about it.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
I'm like that with so many other things like video editing and drawing. I can't draw, all that sort of stuff. We all have weak points or blind spots, right? So it's great when there's software can help you out.
Yeah, things that aren't our specialty.
Yep.
For example, I could airbrush anything in Photoshop that you would ever need or want, but I can't, I just don't feel comfortable about doing graphic design stuff. But I guess Adobe Express is kind of like an on-ramp to all of those other programs. It kind of gives you an introduction to what they might be like, and then you can add on and complement your design experience with the other programs as well, or you can just do everything in here. So last week,
just before we continue on, we just have a question. I just want to kind of just throw it out if that's all right, because it's a pretty great question. I don't know if you if I'm happy to answer this question too, if you like, Kit. So maybe as an ambassador, you can have a go. But otherwise, I'm happy to answer too. Anas has asked the question: how does Adobe's AI transforming the creative process? How is Adobe's AI transforming the creative process, and what innovative features does it bring to the table for designers and artists? And it's just a crazy question, like good question. So I thought
I think you should start off with that, and then I can give my, I guess, like insight as a creative professional too.
All right. So from my perspective, like ever since like the versioning of AI, it's like adding it to your toolkit. So it's an extra tool. Like the Mac was, like the printing press was, like it's changing things, but it's still a creator tool. And we were just talking about it then, weren't we, Kit? Like, graphic design might not be a strong suit. It's like, okay, great. Well, now we have like automatic layout options, and you can, generate layout ideas and things like that using AI, like at the, click of a button. I don't know what's going on. So that's my perspective of it. And I also think like from an Adobe perspective, like the attitude is definitely as a co-pilot. So I heard someone say co-pilot a while ago, and I was like, that's so cool. It's like having an assistant or a co-pilot working with you. And that's great for individual creators and like non-professionals as well.
I think that is such a good way to put it. I think there is a lot of, for me as a designer, especially one that works in the 3D tactile, hands-on, handmade space. That's what I do. We do craft-based design at my design studio here. There obviously is that nervousness about embracing AI, because there's that whole discussion around, I guess, ethics to do with, like where the sort of imagery is getting pulled from when you think of traditional AI, or like the kinds of AI art that's been generated out there. But also, is AI going to replace me? I mean, but I think that has been a genuine concern of every single like generation of designers as technology progresses. So it's natural to feel that way. But I think if we kind of embrace it as a complement to our art making practice or our design practice, and as a way to help us rather than replace us, I think that's sort of like how I'm thinking about how AI can kind of, lend itself to my design practice. I think we talked about it briefly in the last session, but I'm trying to work out at the moment, like how I can use AI to complement. And I guess everybody's sort of I've seen other artists in my kind of network start experimenting with it themselves. I love Firefly because that you don't have to worry about the ethics side of it at all, because everything that it pulls from when you are generating artwork within it comes from Adobe stock. So it's all like licensed for commercial use. So it's not pulling it from other artists' work. So that's really cool. But also, like you said, Flynn, it's popping up in little ways, like, for example, AI generative text, or helping you pre-fill copy, or, just those little tools. Like, it is a co-pilot. So it's not necessarily this big bad beast that's coming to steal your job. It's actually helping you. But I've realized that I can use it for when I'm generating concepts for client work, for big, real life installations or props or sets or things like that. I'm starting to do a lot more of my concepting within Adobe Firefly now, to help me come up with, for example, that I had an installation that I'm creating a whole bunch of papercraft flowers for, and it's going to be in this big shopping center in Sydney soon. And I went on Adobe Firefly and sort of typed in, papercraft flowers, certain color, this shape, retro 60s style, 70s style. And it was able to just kind of generate a whole lot of options for me to then spark my imagination and help me, think outside of the box of what shapes, because I have go-to shapes that I always create with flowers, right, because it's ingrained in my design memory, I guess. But it's really helping me to open up, I guess, my design style a little bit. And then what's been really interesting is taking something that being inspired by something I've seen on there, and then pulling that back into the real world and making that thing that I saw on screen in real life. So I think I'm still using it in a way that relates back to my 3D art practice, but it's been quite exciting, and it's helped me to stop feeling worried about like nobody needing a craft-based designer anymore because they'll just get AI to design something that looks like it's fabric or cardboard or whatever.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess that's my insight on it.
There you go. Right. Love it.
That was a great question.
It was a really great question. You can tell that like it's something that obviously we're thinking about it all the time, right? Like, yeah. Thanks for the question, Anas. It's great.
Yeah, thanks so much. Okay, so if you were with us last session, you will know that I took this template, which is a pre-made Adobe Express template, and we started remixing it and redesigning it together to create something new to promote a mock creative workshop that I would be hosting here in my studio, because hosting workshops is something we do a lot here in the studio. So we kind of all had input on what it was going to look like. We kind of got to this place. So we talked about updating colors using the brand tool. We talked about editing backgrounds and pulling in backgrounds from the background library here within Adobe Express. We talked about generative AI in the text. So we used generative AI to come up with like a kind of crafty version of the text for our flyer. But I've decided, we kind of were umming and ahhing last time about whether we were going to leave it as is or use the glitter foam AI. And I think I would like to leave it as is. I like the kind of, sleek design, elevated kind of look of the original template, and I want to still replicate that within mine, but perhaps add a few craftier touches.
And the 3D effect in this case, like as a flyer, probably is in contrast, I think, a little bit to like the flat shapes, I think.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. So I love that you can actually use this text effects panel to create all these different AI effects with text, but for the purposes of this particular design, we are going to remove it. So all you have to do to remove it is just press that button. I love that there's just like all these one button click things that you can do in Adobe Express, and it just like does something or doesn't do something. Like I'm really into it. Like it makes it so easy. Because I don't know about you, I talk about this every time I do Adobe Lives with you, Flynn, about how I just like do not use shortcuts at all. And I'm so bad at remembering what the shortcuts are. The only one I think I remember is Command C, and that's it.
And Command V to do something with it.
Right? I was just trying to think of Command V being like, what's the other one that I remember? And I totally forgot. Yep. So I like that there's just buttons everywhere that just, like help you out. But yeah, so okay, I just wanted to kind of change around some of these colors. I kind of feel like my brand blue, which is this blue here, it is kind of hard sometimes to read black text against because it's kind of a darker color. So I just wanted to, I don't know, choose some more colors, I think, and just experiment with them, just to change it up a little bit. I feel like it kind of needs a bit of, I don't know, like green. So in this panel here, as we talked about last time, you can kind of amend the looks of like any shapes or anything like that that you want. There's so much editing capability within each of the different panels that I really like it. But I don't know, what should we just, I'm feeling kind of indecisive. I'm feeling indecisive today. So there might be a lot of like me umming and ahhing and deciding what I want. Do you ever have days like that where you're just like, you're looking at it and you're like, I just can't make it like look the way I want?
Yeah, weekdays. Those are the days for me.
Okay, so let's look at this text again. What I really like is that we talked about this last time, but you can upload your own fonts into this or use like thousands of fonts from the Adobe font library. So I've uploaded this font, which was created by an amazing designer called Meg Lewis. And I use it as my brand font, and I really like, I think it's sort of like really lends itself well to the craft aesthetic. But I just wanted to show you a little bit of text editing here and what's possible for you within here. So like you can adjust the letter and line spacing, and I kind of like that sort of chunky look. So I think I want to make my letters a little bit closer together. And what I really like about this, touching back on the fact that I know nothing about typography, is that you can pretty much be assured that someone in the design team of Adobe Express has made these settings so that you can never really like break any typography design rules when you are like playing around with text. And so everything's still going to be like nice and readable and not a hot mess like if I tried to like lay out the type by myself. So I really like that. So I don't know, let me know what you think. Do you think I should just keep going? I think I will just keep going with like my brand font just to kind of keep it consistent and on brand with my studio, but I don't know, do you think it's chunky looking enough? I quite like the original font that was in the design, but you know, for the sake of wanting to
I think we have to see it. I think you have to see both versions, right?
Yeah.
So this wonky font is more legible, I think, because it's not that like impact kind of vertical. So
and it's definitely on brand for me because it's my brand font. So I might just quickly change everything. And once we're done with the text, we're going to start talking about adding a little bit of flair to our design. So I just need to make sure these are the right size. Okay, maybe I am breaking a typography rule here, but they're not going to be all the exact same size just because I want them to fill the box a little bit, but I don't. So I'm going to like go rogue. Designers, don't come for me. I'm just doing what feels right. I'm just doing some intuitive.
You're the client, and it's craft-based thing at the pub. Like I think your creative license extends to whatever you want to do, really.
You know, the people at the pub are not going to be like, oh, so that's a 153 point and that is a 172 point. I'm not coming to craft club at the pub. They're not going to do that, I don't think.
I don't think so either.
They do. Well, then they're going to miss out on a really fun craft event at the pub.
Have you ever done a craft event at the pub?
I actually have.
Yeah?
A few times, yes. And I love it. It's
was that your fun. Initiative? Or did someone ask you to come along, or was it part of something?
It was my initiative. I teamed up with a local pub in Sydney actually years ago, and we did a whole series of them. But it can be a liability because craft supplies like hot glue guns and scissors and people drinking kind of like could be a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I can see that.
So you just got to be like a little bit careful with what kind of product you choose.
How was it? Curious.
It was King's Cross. It was a bar. It was on the corner opposite the Coke sign. Can't remember what it's called. Do you remember what do you know what it's called?
I know the one.
Yeah, we did it there. And on one night, someone's hair caught on fire.
Oh.
Because there were candles.
Someone part of the workshop?
Yeah, there were candles. They got really into the crafting and they weren't paying attention and they lent their hair back and it caught in one of the little candles and their hair lit on fire. No one noticed because they were really involved in the crafting until the hair started to smell.
How much did they lose? Much hair?
They had so much hair that you couldn't tell. And when I say they, am I talking about myself and just didn't want to admit that it was me?
My goodness.
Maybe I am. So maybe it was mine.
Please tell me there's a photo of your hair catching fire in a pub.
I think there's probably one in the archives. I'll dig it out for you. Okay, so let's just put like for the sake of the example of this flyer, I'm just going to leave this address in here and the date 2099. I'll see you in 2099 at the pub for this craft thing. So okay, now what I would really like to know from you guys is I'm kind of okay with the text being black, the lines being black, keeping it quite simple. Because when we add a little bit of flair, I feel like the simplicity of this design is going to, you know, make a nice background for like some of the additional features we're going to add. We're also going to add some animation in a minute. So maybe we'll just keep as is, do you think? And then we can make it fancier if we feel like it needs a bit more afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
It's kind of a creative process I always go for. I always want to like throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, and then it sort of becomes an exercise in editing and paring back, because I'm a really more is more kind of designer. So I always just be like, okay, make the text rainbow, make the lines all different colors, but sometimes simplicity as a base is a good way to go. I'm still learning how to pare back things. So okay, so that's basically a little bit about just a recap on what we did last time, a little bit of text editing. Now I want to show you, we touched on it last time, this design assets section of Adobe Express. So let's just say you are a small business owner, but you're not necessarily a designer and you don't really know or have the skill or the time to create different icons or illustrations and things like that for your projects. Well, what is so awesome about this is that there's a whole design asset library that you can choose from. I did show you a little bit of it last time. There's a whole background sort of area that you can select from. There are different shapes. So if you don't know how to create your own vector shapes and things like that, or you don't have time and you just want to quickly drop in a speech bubble or a sad face, then you can just do so in here. There are also these icons. So what's really great about all the icons in the icon library is that you can customize all the colors, so they don't stay black. You can actually make them any color you want, so they can match your design. But today I just want to show you a bit more about the design assets section. So this is what I call adding flair. There's just a whole bunch of options to choose from to just enhance your designs a little bit more and create, imagery, illustration, without needing to know how to design them or design them from scratch if you don't have time. So let's just have a look at what's in this folder just for the sake of exploring. There's this folder called Creativity. I want to see what assets are available. As you can see, there's lots of different styles. So it can really, you can really find imagery that suits any different kind of design style that you're going for, whether it be illustrative, like hand-drawn, or whether it be more like vector-based, like these ones here. There's something for everyone, which I really like. And it's really great to just, add a bit extra to your design. I mean, so if you want to add something, I'm just going to show you an example. You just click on it and it pops in, but you also get the ability to edit what that looks like slightly. So you can add effects to it, create different tonal variations if that suits your design. You can also use these tools, which you'll see are quite similar to some of the basic editing tools you have in Photoshop, where you can use something more saturated, bump up the brightness, contrast, etc., to really just add a little bit more to it, blur it out, sharpen it. So there's a lot of editing capability on each individual aspect of this whole entire platform. So whether it be fonts, whether it be shapes, whether it be design assets, which I really love. There's also an animation. I'm just going to take that. Oh no, yeah, that's fine. I'm just going to, where am I? There's an animation. Whoops, I added that in by accident. An animation section here, which we're going to explore in a minute. I don't want to give you a sneak peek before I get to that point, but you can animate every single individual element, like every word, every graphic that you put in, and the animation capabilities have been enhanced so much since the last version of Adobe Express on the desktop. So I think, as we all know these days, people are really gravitating towards short form video content. So you can really create engaging, moving imagery as a flyer with animation and share it as a reel or something like that. So you can kind of capture that attention. I do feel like marketing for your small business is challenging these days because every platform is saturated and you've really got to stand out. So being able to animate things really can help you do that. But let's talk about using your own imagery in here. So I'm going to show you this section called Your Stuff. I have a whole bunch of Creative Cloud libraries that I fill with different kinds of images. I've made them for all sorts of different things. Let's have a look at this one, for example. This is a bunch of papercraft assets. So as I mentioned before, and if you know my work, you'll know that I am a craft-based designer and we create tactile illustrations, props, installation sets in the real world using handmade techniques. But I also do a lot of digital design and create digital content for clients. But we really like to add handmade touches to everything that we do to sort of link back to that brand ethos and what we're all about as a design studio. So I've created all of these assets by hand and taken photos of them or scanned them in and, enhanced them within Photoshop and included them in this Creative Cloud library. And I use them repeatedly across all of my different designs. So I really like that in Adobe Express, you can access all of your Creative Cloud libraries, just like you can, I can access this exact same library from Photoshop, Illustrator, and Premiere as well. So those are all the programs that I use regularly for my business. It just really helps with, file sharing, especially if you're working with a team and you need to all be accessing the same files. So I've got a couple of assets here that I thought I might add in. So there's this papercraft pencil. So I'm going to pop that in.
Is this something that you've created? So this is something one of your brand assets. Yeah.
Yeah, this is. And like, so the pencil, the scissors, and the little like rosette are three of my main brand icons. And so they appear in digital form, like as illustrations, and also in papercraft form across a lot of my stuff. But because this is a craft workshop, I thought it might be really nice to combine the texture of a handmade thing with the sleek digital design, just to kind of like give it a little, I don't know, handmade touch, since we are going to be, like crafting. So it's so easy to just access that stuff and drop it in, and then you can enhance it like I showed you before in all sorts of different ways. But in this instance, I really like the way these look, so I'm just going to keep them as is, and just pop them in. And then I'm going to show you, like, so I thought they could kind of cut across some of the little segments like this. What do you think? Yeah, just, I don't know, just add something extra. I want to add the rosette in, but I wanted to show you this new feature in Express, which is using linked assets and being able to edit them in real time in other programs like Photoshop, and have them update automatically in Express for you. So what this is really helpful for is, let's just say we popped this scissors in, and there's actually been a new scissors created since we designed this flyer, and we need to sort of update it and to the new one, so that everything is still on brand, and we're working as part of a team. We want everything to be updating in live real time. That's where this linked asset tool comes in really handy. So we're actually going to use it with an artwork that I have uploaded previously. So within the file section of the Your Stuff folder, anything that you've uploaded, so if you want to upload something of your own, you can go to this media section here and upload from your device. And then it pops into a folder within Your Stuff. So I've got this Photoshop file here. So this is the rosette that completes the trio of my brand icons that are made out of paper. But as you can see here, I've pulled it in just as it was in Photoshop. And it doesn't look the way I want it to look. So we're going to do a little bit of editing within here, but also within Photoshop. And I'm going to show you how this like real-time linked asset tool works. So the first thing I want to do is remove the background, because obviously we don't want it to have a purple background. And you know how I think the remove background tool is something that you can see across other programs too. Like I know it's in Photoshop as well. I used to just be so slow and just like individually with the magic wand be highlighting everything and removing.
Me too.
And now there's this tool, and I just love it, because this is actually, Flynn, a great example of how AI can act as your co-pilot and help you, because it's actually going to find and use its clever behind the scenes like skills and tools to find where to remove that background, so you don't have to do it yourself, and you just have to sit there and chat while
amazing. And you youngins don't know the pain of having to learn how to deep etch.
Oh my God.
And that being the job that you do for like 5 years in a design studio or something, because it was the worst job.
Oh, it
you
was.
had to be good at it.
Deep etching was actually one of the first things that I learned in Photoshop, because I had to create, I had all these handmade things, and I needed to kind of like make them look a bit more professional, because I was working out of my home when I first started, and I didn't have anywhere to take photos. So I would just take them on my kitchen table, and then I'd have to like deep etch the background out so that I at least looked like I had, like a professional studio.
Yeah.
But anyway, so, okay, I've got this rosette, which I really like, but as you can see, the other two assets have a drop shadow. And they were actually those drop shadows were put in Photoshop to further enhance the papercraft vibe that I'm going for. As much as these are real papercraft objects that have been photographed, I think like to make them pop more like a collage effect in my designs, I like to have a drop shadow. But as you can see, this one doesn't have one. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to go into Photoshop from within Adobe Express using this linked assets tool and add a drop shadow. And then I'm going to show you how it just like does a little bit of magic and updates it in real time. So if you have a PSD file that you've uploaded into your stuff folder, all you have to do is select it and then go to this button here that says open in Photoshop. Now, we did mention last time, make sure that if you have an updated Photoshop to the absolute most updated that it can be for right now. Do that before you try to access this tool, because it won't show up otherwise. Okay, so I've removed the background within Express, but it hasn't removed in the original Photoshop file. So I'm just going to do it again here in Photoshop. So yay, so easy. Oh no,
it's just a button in both of them.
Yes, except it just took out a little bit of that. But you know what I'm going to do? Actually, let's test this. Let's see if I can still do my my drop shadow, and if it will update without the background in Photoshop as well. Or do I need to no, I need to remove the background. Okay, I'm going to do it the old school way just because this is my habit. All right, so we're adding a drop shadow. I don't do a lot, honestly, like there's so many tools in Photoshop and I don't do a lot of them or use a lot of them, but one that I always use is drop shadow all the time. I want it to be like a little bit, sorry, it's a bit hard to see. I might move that there. I want it to be quite dark because I know that the other ones in my asset were dark. And I'm just trying to remember what direction the drop shadow was in. I think it was like on that side. Oops, on the other side.
I always do that.
Yeah, I'm
like
so
the
bad.
Radial should be what the shadow you want, but it's actually like where the light's coming from.
I know. I'm so bad with directions as well. So I feel like I'm always messing up.
I don't think that has anything to do with directions. Those are two separate things.
Oh, really? I always feel like, I'm always like going right when I'm meant to go left and stuff like that. So.
Oh my goodness, that's so funny.
Yeah, I'm a librarian, guys.
It's that show, and they're talking about Arrested Development. Have you ever seen that show?
Oh yeah.
And he's talking about how he has great rhythm, because George Michael is talking about that. He's like, I have great rhythm. Yeah, like I'm always on time. And he's like trying to relate like percussion to like how prompt he is at things.
Oh yeah, I mean, look,
Reminds
that's
me a
me.
bit about that.
I'm also just going to add a little bit more. Sometimes I like to add a bit of noise because I feel like in larger designs where these assets are quite small, adding a bit of noise just increases a sort of like the grain of the paper craft and it's quite grainy here, but in the middle it was, because it's white, it was a little bit like, I've just added it, just enhanced it a bit. Okay, so this is done and I like the way it looks. I'm just going to save it. I'm not going to save as, I'm going to save it exactly as it opened up in Photoshop. And then I'm going to go back to Adobe Express.
Nice.
And let's see if that works. It should, come on. It usually updates in real time. I think it's
might be taking a second because we're streaming at the same time.
There it is. So it says your linked assets have changed. So it's telling you this thing that you have in here, you actually updated that in Photoshop. So you just click update to make that happen in real time. And as you can see, it's working. And it was quite subtle, but you can see that my drop shadow did that work? Oh yeah, the grain's there and the little drop shadow is also there. So it updated it in real time within here. And that also works if you have like copied and pasted this asset and put multiples of them all around your design, it would update all of them.
Right. So if you duplicated the asset within Express, it would update all of them at the same time.
So if you want to use that tool, just make sure that the original asset that you uploaded was a Photoshop file, and then it will update it all for you. And it will also preserve all the layers as well. So you can actually, this has all the layers preserved, or if I did use lots of layers on this one, it would be preserved. So then you can update each of the individual layers in Photoshop and have it like seamlessly update.
Wow, it's pretty
That's quite cool.
Yeah.
I still am working out kind of like my workflow for that because it is really new.
Yeah.
I just really like that that's available to me.
Yeah.
Because I'm always changing my mind. Like right now I'm moving this pencil because I've changed my mind about where I want it to go. But so it's good to be able to like update your assets and like not have to, in this world of digital clutter, it's great to not have to like have multiple different files and versions, and be like remembering what all of them are, and telling your team, if you're working with a team, oh, it's actually version 50, it's not version 2. And just being able to
use this different file if you're doing it on web, or if you're doing it over here, and use this different file if it's for this, or if you wanted to animate it, there's an After Effects file, but that's in a different spot or something.
So I like that. So okay, I could play around with the layout of these forever, but I won't. I'm just going to leave them like that for now. Maybe make that one slightly bigger. So that's kind of a little bit of like a handmade, I guess, touch to this flyer. Let me know what you think, or if you think it needs a bit more, because obviously I've got all these other craft-based elements that I could add.
You're like, hey, by the way, I've got like 400 other like assets if you want to throw that in.
You are really getting an insight into like the chaos that is my design process, because I like go, oh, but how about this? Or, that looks good, I'll add that in. And then I'm just here pottering around.
It'd be like a never-ending thing, right? Like there's just so many combinations and things you could do and add.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing about design, is that like when is anything ever really finished? If you have unless you have a timeline and a deadline, you could just potentially keep going forever, because it's fun, and it's kind of like, new ideas get formed, and I don't know, I could just go on forever. But now I'm adding these stars just because I like them. Why not? And then I swear we will stop and move on to the next part, but I just kind of can't help myself.
I do love that. Do you find obviously, do you find that you give yourself a time limit? You're like, hey, I need to get this done, and then move on to something else?
Yes, if there is a deadline, for sure, I have to. Otherwise, I would not be meeting any of my deadlines ever. But for something like this, like, for experimentation, which I think is really important as a designer, is to continuously be playing, experimenting, and trying new things, learning new tools, experimenting with new apps or programs, because it keeps your work fresh and it keeps it new and relevant, and therefore it sort of increases your I guess like sellability as a designer, or your hireability, because you're constantly experimenting with new things and seeing what's out there. And so it's important to try and make time for play and experimentation in your week, if you can, as a working professional designer. I think it can be sometimes really hard to do, especially when you have lots of competing deadlines and everything's due at once and stuff. But where you can, even if it's just you jump in Adobe Express for 5 minutes at the start of the day to get your creative juices flowing, and you give yourself a little brief where you choose a template and you have to remix it, and you've given yourself 15 minutes. That's actually a fun little like exercise that could kind of like get that creative energy flowing every day, if you wanted to try something like that, and help you understand, I guess, like how to use a program like this.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. And it's also something that you don't notice until, like, if you don't allow for like time for play and experimentation, you won't notice that day, but you might notice in like a year or something, like, or 2 years.
Like,
and then you're like, oh, hang on, I've been doing the same thing. I haven't changed anything in my workflow. I haven't invested any time in looking into any of this new tech or any of this stuff. And then it becomes a big problem.
Yeah, or like, I'm burnt out and I don't have any joy. I can't find the joy in design anymore, because I've just been, churning stuff out and reiterating the same stuff, for a year now, and I need something fresh, and so even just 5 minutes a day is great.
There you go.
Anyway, look, you guys, one more thing and then I'm done. I'm putting that there. Okay, there we go. That's done. I don't know if I like it or not, but it's a flyer. It's ready to go. So the last thing that I want to do is I want to animate a couple of elements, because as much as I want this to be, let's just say, a flyer I could print out and hand to my local cafe or just hang up at the pub as a poster, I also want this to be online. So I want it to kind of have a bit of movement. So I think what we're going to do is just gently animate these 3 papercraft assets using some of the animation tools within Express. So when you select on it and it opens up the editing panel for you on the left, you can jump into this animation tool. Now you can actually create a whole series of, like, it starts with this, it then does this for a while, and then it ends with this style of animation. So when you click on each one, there's all these different options. So this is just a matter of experimenting and seeing which one kind of like works for you. I kind of like, for the sake of this, maybe like something like that. But so let's just say that's just for the looping in part, but that's just for the coming in part. But for the looping, there's also like all these other options. So you've really got quite a lot of different animation options here. And you can put them all together kind of in a timeline, and have them do things at different times, and, you know, have them end with something like this. But I think for the sake of this, I just want it to be just a hint of movement to capture people's attention on social media or something like that. So I might just do looping only, rather than come up with a whole kind of like animation story about what each of these elements are going to do. So I think we might just do some gentle things. So maybe that one. That's quite cool. So once you've applied an animation style, you can then edit it by creating different speeds and how intense it is. So like this is like mega intensity, but I kind of think that that's compromising the texture of my handcrafted design. So I might just pull it back a little bit.
A bit more subtle. You give me the idea with the scissors that you could have each blade of the scissors, right, and put them in as separate assets and then have them wiggling so they're cutting.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So in that case, what you could do is you could open this asset up in Photoshop and then split it into like a 2-layered or 2 different, you know, individual files.
Yeah.
Up the top, like cut out the top, pop it in something different, and then maybe use like the I guess like the magic, what's the band-aid called? The band-aid
Heel?
Yeah, and just like, you know, fill in the gap where that top scissors has been removed from the bottom.
Yep.
And yeah, then create and do that as 2 different assets.
You could also select it and just press generate, and AI would probably give you a pretty good result as well.
Yes, good one. I should try that actually. Now, should I use different animations for each asset just to see what it looks like?
Yeah, let's have a look. I like the icons. This must be new as well. They've got actual icons that demonstrate the type of animation.
It is. The animation features that were available before were still really great, but there was way fewer of them. Oh my God. There was way fewer of them. So now they've really given you this full library of animated things. All right, this one, let's see what we want for this one, and then we'll watch the whole thing and see what it looks like.
Yeah, there's quite a few. And something cool about it as well, that you have the static version and you have the animated version, and you just got them both in the one app and they're just done. Like,
yeah,
because if you otherwise, it's like, who designs in After Effects, right? And then like, I can only think of one studio that does it that way, but you know, because otherwise you have to do a print thing and then you have to do an animated thing.
So now you've just got this one project, and then you can export it off the one project as a still, as a PNG, as a PDF, as an MP4. So if you want to see how everything's looking, that's kind of where we're at. Just some gentle animation. I might actually change this one because I think it's the same as the bottom one. So let's give it something else.
The wiggle's pretty solid, right? Like wiggle's always going to be good.
Yeah. Wiggle, I use wiggle on the bottom. Maybe I'll use breathe. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, there we go. So each one's a slightly different.
Nice.
Okay, so that's a little bit about some simple animation tools. You can also actually, if you wanted to create, like, let's just say a reel, if you click on this edit timeline button down the bottom, it actually pops up much like we've probably seen in a lot of the editing functionality of social media platforms. So you'll be familiar with it. And it's also like if you go into create an animated GIF, for example, in Photoshop, it's really replicating things that we already intuitively know how to use. So you don't have to learn anything new here, but you could kind of, let's just say, you then wanted to replace all of these with different papercraft icons. You can copy this whole segment here, duplicate, and then it would add it in as a different scene. And then you could keep the background and then replace these and animate these differently. And then it would just play as one big video. And so you can really, really start creating quite complex animations to use as like videos, like reels or TikTok videos or whatever. So there's a lot of capability here. I'm not going to show you, we're not going to dive into all of that today, but I just wanted to show you that it's possible in this timeline section. So have a play around because there's lots of different ways that you can use it. Nice. Okay, so we've got our final design now. So let's just say, okay, I love the fact that it's a video and I'm definitely going to use that potentially as a reel, or maybe send it as an MP4 or an animated GIF in an email or something like that, or pop it up, you know, like in my email newsletter. But let's just say I want to actually post a still version of it to a social media platform. You can actually do that, and this is where I think the tool to help creative professionals like really, or Adobe Express being a platform to help creative professionals like really comes into play. Because I don't know about you, but if you kind of are a working creative and you own your own creative business, there's this whole other aspect which is marketing, which literally is like a full-time job on top of your existing job. I'm always looking for ways to streamline my marketing, because otherwise I'd just be doing marketing and admin all day long and I wouldn't actually be doing any designing, which is what my whole business exists for in the first place. So any kind of hack or, I don't know, way or tool that I can use to speed up marketing and make everything so much more streamlined and easy for myself, I'm totally going to be on board with trying to implement that within my workflow. So Adobe Express actually has a content scheduler built in. Because the platform is really, really well used for generating marketing assets for your small business or for your brand, it kind of really goes hand in hand with being able to then just instantly schedule anything that you've designed in here and pop it in your calendar so that it's like set and forget. You're designing it in here, and rather than then like save the asset and then make a whole other appointment with yourself to like schedule all those assets in or manually post them. I mean, how annoying is it when you know that, let's just say 9 p.m. is the time on social media where your audience is like the most active. So, you know, you have to post all your assets that you spent all day creating at 9 p.m., but you go out with your friends or you fall asleep in front of the TV and you forget. That's why I love scheduling, because I am very forgetful and I want to have a life outside of my creative work and my job. So if I can schedule things for after hours, then awesome. So let's just say we want to do that here. The way we would do that is we would, first of all, I just want to show you, if I click share. Hello. I think we are lagging a little bit. There we go. Okay. So if I click share, you have a few different options here. You can pop it on the web. You can invite collaborators to work on it with you, or you can schedule the post. If you want to download it also, these are the different file formats that are available to you, which is really great. So I could actually make this this exact design could become a poster. It could become an image for social media, or it could become a video for like a reel or something like I mentioned before. Yeah. So there's lots, and you can also go up to 4K with your video resolution, which is really amazing.
Really?
Yeah. I think
is that
that's
always
great.
The case? Is that new?
No, it only used to be 720 or 1080, but now
4K. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Because I guess because we know that a lot of social media platforms compress our images and videos. So if you can put something in at the highest quality that you can, then you know that it's going to still look really great when you put it online.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah.
I love that.
I'm impressed. I was shocked to see 4K in there. Wow.
Yeah, pretty powerful. Okay, so if I want to schedule the post, I'll click on share and I'll tap schedule post. Now it opens up this panel, which is linked to the Adobe Express content scheduler, and it's already putting my video in as I'm sitting here talking. So I could actually be figuring out what time I want it to go using the calendar. I could be selecting the channel I want it to go to. And so I might just quickly jump over here as this is uploading to show you in this other window what it looks like in the main scheduler part, which is on the left menu.
You get like a whole calendar, social media
and
scheduler.
Once things are uploaded in it, you can drag and drop stuff around. So it's really intuitive and it's very visual because the platform is quite visual. You can connect all your different platforms here. I've got LinkedIn and Pinterest connected at the moment because that's kind of what I'm using this scheduler for. So you can just go through, it's like you just go through, like it takes you through all the steps to connect, and it opens up those platforms for you and does it for you, which is really cool. So back to this, you've got your little preview here so you can watch it. And then you can also add more assets. You can add them from your computer, or you can add them from other designs that you've already created within Express, which I love. You can pick when you're going to schedule it for. So let's just say I'm going to schedule it tomorrow at 9 p.m. 9:04. 9:04. Select the channel. I want to put it on LinkedIn. So you just click that box and it goes to LinkedIn, or you can click any of them. You can type your caption in all caps because I'm really excited about this. Craft Club at the Pub.
Yeah, why not?
You can add emojis, which is great because we all know that everyone uses those.
Yep.
And then you can preview it of what it's going to look like on LinkedIn.
Publish this for real. That'd be really funny. This is a caption just shouting on LinkedIn on a Friday. Craft Club
on a Saturday. On a Saturday night at 9 p.m. Save it as a draft, which I'm going to do.
Your LinkedIn's been hacked. What's going on?
I'm going to save it as a draft, and then I'm going to just add it to drafts. So it's literally took a couple of seconds, and then we've scheduled it in, which is so easy. So you could just do that for everything. You could spend a day on here just generating, like let's just say I have Craft Club at the Pub every month. I can just spend, an hour duplicating and creating different versions of this in different colors, just so there's a bit of something different, perhaps changing the icons around, changing the little colors around and the dates and everything. I could smash out maybe 6 of those in half an hour and then schedule them all to go across the next 2 months. Done. Super easy, super quick. Love it. So the final thing that I kind of wanted to show you here really quickly, or just talk about before we kind of wrap up.
We got about 2 minutes left.
Oh, yeah. So if you want to resize this to make different sized assets for any other kind of social media, all you have to do is hit the resize button, and you can choose from all of these options here. And it will automatically resize for you, and then you can just tweak it and you're done.
That is so good that they're all just there. We were talking last week, just constantly, I can never remember specs. I always have to Google it and then find it from a reputable source. I'm like, is that out of date or is that current? So great that it's just all there.
Yeah, so I hope that kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of how you can use not only the design features of Adobe Express, but also the scheduling tools and other things to help you streamline your design and your marketing workflows as a creative professional or as a small business owner. But also, I encourage you to just jump in and experiment and play on here for fun, because it's really fun to use.
It is really fun to use. Well, that was awesome. I love seeing that. Some surprises for me as well. The 4K stuff and just the animation, like how far that's come, is just incredible that you can do that in the browser. Fantastic. Yeah. Well, thank you, Kit. As always, it is so much fun to hang out with you here on Adobe Live, and just a lovely person to spend time with. So thank you for joining us on Adobe Live.
Thanks for having me, and have fun experimenting with Adobe Express, everyone.
We shall. And it's Friday here, so happy weekend, everybody. Happy Friday. Hope you have a wonderful, fantastic weekend. And thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time on Adobe Live. Thanks again, Kit.
Bye.
Bye.